Okay, so good evening. I just wanted to share with you, a little bit about some research I had to do with my group and communication class over the last few weeks, right? And the topic that we were researching is online learning. And so most of my group members, they found challenges and difficulties that students have been facing during the pandemic with online learning. I found an article that addressed problems that teachers are facing, in the transition they've had to make with online learning. And it's an article by two Turkish professors, Korkmaz and Torman, right? And the title of their article is "Are We Ready for the Post-COVID-19 Educational Practices?" And it was published last year in September of 2020, so just a few months, right, after the pandemic started, and we're almost a year into it. And so I guess one thing just to take into account when we're talking about the different findings that they found in their article is they had 1,000 replies to the survey they sent out to a bunch of teachers, and nearly 900 of those answers, 880, were from teachers from pre-K through high school, right? So not the university level, but teachers who almost 100% in all of their courses are always have a classroom setting. And so the most common difficulties that almost all of the teachers faced is, one, they found a lack of motivation in their students, and also they were finding that the interaction was, completely different between, them and their students, and therefore harder to engage their students. But then in addition to all of that, they also found that some subject matters just weren't appropriate. They weren't adequate to be able to be taught online. And they even had a hard time with the assessments, right? Some subject matters are just hard to assess or to test if the students have really learned the right material. And sometimes that might just be because, they felt like they didn't have the proper formation. They were never taught, in teacher school, in their program, how to teach classes online. And in fact, going forward, after the crisis is over, some of the changes that they expect includes that they expect that education faculties from now on will include some sort of formation to prepare teachers to give classes online, right? They expect that in general, teachers will be better prepared because of this whole experience and the sharing of knowledge and thinking forward, thinking ahead of how they would have to teach their class online if that were necessary. They're also hoping that as students go back to the classroom, that they'll be more motivated, right? And then the teachers, their suggestions, that for what needs to be done, in the future to make this a better situation, is that first of all, they think that students need to have better internet access, right? They found that some of their students just had an inadequate access, and so that made things more complicated. They think that both teachers and students need to have classes and training on how to do online teaching. That educational administrators need to have a better preparedness plan in the case of a future crisis or pandemic, right? They also, would expect that educational faculties that they prepare, their teachers to be able to face this kind of crisis, right? And so all of the findings then from their research, shows us that it's not just students that have been affected from this crisis, but that teachers have also been affected in a large way, and that they need support, they need understanding, and they need future training. And I think we can expect that the face of education will change after the pandemic is over.
Hi,